want to find that drive and focus that has you locked in and on fire every single day, my book, The Mirror of Motivation, will do it for you. I bought a copy for you. You take care of the shipping. The book is free. Click the link down there. I got you.
DreAllDay.com.
There's not a better show out there for you to be listening to, so congratulations on this decision to tune in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even though the success you've expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, let me give you a little bit more, because you got to put this into action. You're going to get the personal initiative, the go-getter energy that moves me, you, everybody out there to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. We put all of this together into one package, and what you get is the mindset, the method, the philosophy, the book, the show known as Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. Today's topic: correction is not criticism. Now, this is a topic that I heard the coach on this show that I mentioned a couple days ago, the show called Last Chance U on Netflix. I heard him saying this to his players. He actually said it to the camera first, then he was saying it to his players. He said it to the camera like in a confessional in his office, and then he announced it to his players during practice. Those of you who don't know what Last Chance U is a Netflix documentary about some players who are at a junior college football program because they have somehow, some way, for some reason, messed up when they had a Division I college scholarship to play football, messed up. Now they're at this JUCO trying to rebuild their careers and rebuild their images, their reputations, etc. At least a majority of the players, not all of them. So on this show, Last Chance U, this coach who's at this JUCO, he knows the player situation. He knows that they're all trying to get back to where they were and possibly playing the NFL and all of this. And he said this to his football team, and he had explained before he even said it to his team that a lot of his players just weren't used to being coached hard. And I know we have some coaches who listen to this, and I know there are plenty of athletes who listen to this. Maybe you've had some coaches who coach hard, and maybe there are some coaches here who do coach hard. And what this Last Chance U coach said, many players bristle at being coached this way, because one of the bigger issues that the coach pointed out was that a lot of these guys, these young men, they haven't had a father figure in their life. They haven't had a man ever talk to them like that before, so they're not used to having him as the coach talk to them like that. So they're not really trying to hear any type of harsh feedback from another man, because all of their lives up to that point, and these guys are 18, 19, 20 years old, up to that point, all they've ever heard from anyone, especially around their football talent, is how great they are, how good they are, how they're going to go to the NFL, how they're unstoppable, how any mistake that's been made couldn't possibly have been their fault. A lot of them have that problem, so they're not used to being coached. They're not used to being corrected, so they take everything as criticism. And even then, I mean, criticism can be a good thing, but even then, since they're not used to hearing criticism, when they do hear it, they're not trying to hear it. So they turn negative. They start talking back to the coach. They're not listening, and they end up getting benched or not playing in the games, or just having all types of problems, not with their actual physical ability to play football, which has never been in question. It's with their ability to take coaching, with their ability to be disciplined, to do what they need to do within the structure of a team. Because football is much more of a team sport, I would say, than even something like basketball, because everyone has a well-defined role, well-defined position in football, as opposed to basketball, where anyone can pretty much do anything that they want. But today's topic is about understanding that when someone offers you a correction, specifically a person whose role it is to offer you correction. I'm not just talking about any random person out there, which it could be, and maybe every once in a while some random person will say something that's useful to you, depending on who you are and where you are. But when someone offers you a correction, such as a parent or a coach or a teacher or a work supervisor or anyone who has the authority to correct you on what you're doing, you don't need to take it as a personal attack, a personal criticism. You can take it as a criticism of your professional performance or of your game, but it's not a personal attack as in the person's trying to bring you down or make you feel like you're lesser, which is what a lot of people do, especially these days. And people are a lot more sensitive these days to what's being said about them than they were, let's say, a generation or two ago. One reason being that we all have access to hear what everybody says about us, whereas back in the day, so to speak, we didn't have access. We didn't know what most people thought of us. Most people didn't think of us because they couldn't even see us. They didn't know who we were. But now anybody can be seen by everybody, and many people are very sensitive to any type of feedback that they see as critical. They see as, they can call it hating. They can say, people are trying to gang up on them or bring them down. And in some cases that's the truth, but in a lot of cases it's not. So today's topic is about understanding that when someone offers you a correction, when someone offers you some feedback that is telling you something other than how great you are, understand that they're not trying to bring you down personally. They may actually be trying to help you, and you need to be open to that. Again, contingent on this person being someone who is enrolled in actually doing that, and you being enrolled in actually hearing it at the same time. Let's make sure we put that, throw that disclaimer in there. So it doesn't mean just any random person on Twitter with no avatar criticize you mean you need to listen to it. Point number one, today's topic, correction is not criticism. Number one, if you are not teaching the class, you can be corrected. I'm going to explain what that means. I'm going to say it one more time. If you are not the one teaching the class, if you are not the one standing in the front of the room, in front of the whiteboard, giving the lecture, that means you qualify to be corrected. If you're sitting in the audience and there's someone in front of the room teaching, that means this. That means there is something that teacher or that speaker knows that you don't know, at least in that particular context at that particular moment. Now, it doesn't mean just because you're sitting in the audience doesn't mean you can't do what the teacher is doing. Listen, I get on this microphone and teach here every single day. But at the same time, when I'm not on this microphone, I still read books. I still listen to podcasts. I still look at blogs. I still get information. I still take online courses. I still get information from other people, sometimes on the same topics on which I'm talking to you about. Why is that? Because there's something that author or that blogger or that podcast host knows that I don't know. Or maybe they're looking at the same thing that I'm looking at. Maybe they know the same thing that I know, but they see it from a different angle from which I see it. Because if all I go off of is what I think and my beliefs and my perspectives, well, this show would have ended at episode 50. But when I go and listen to other people's perspectives and other people's angles, and I see how other people see maybe some of the same stuff that I quote unquote know, then I can get a whole new angle. Oh, you know what? That makes sense. The way that this person sees it when it comes to politics is a little bit different than how I've talked about it. I'm going to talk about that as a different topic. Oh, this person went through this experience. I didn't go through that experience, but because they shared it, I can take that and I can come up with this topic about it. And that could be a whole different episode that I'm going to put out to my audience. So just because you are in the audience, I'm going to make sure I'm being clear here, doesn't mean that you couldn't do what the person that's teaching is doing. Just because you're listening to me right now doesn't mean you don't know what I'm talking about, quote unquote, know what I'm talking about. Knowing something is not just about having the information in your head, people, just by the way. It's about what you actually do with it. It's about the actions that you take. It means that the person that you're listening to has an angle or perspective which is probably different from yours, which you could probably learn from if you're open-minded enough and paying attention closely enough to actually catch it. And those two are not always true for most people. Most people don't fit both of those descriptions. Open-minded enough to understand that maybe someone has a perspective you haven't thought of, and you're paying attention enough to actually hear it when they say it. Now, you could be listening to somebody and not really catch what they're talking about because you're not really paying attention. So why do I take in from other people? I just explained that. There's something that they know that maybe you don't, or an angle that they have that you don't. Or maybe they see things, the same info in a different way, but always in life, you must always remain a student. In school, when you graduate, they call it commencement. Everyone knows that commencement, you look up the definition, it means the beginning. Commencement is the start of something, it's not the end of something. Which means in life, you are always a student. There never comes a point when you say, you know what, all right, I know everything that I need to know. All right, I have all the information. All my opinions are ironclad. Nothing's changing. None of my beliefs are changing. I'm just going to stay exactly as I am right now. Now, there are some people walking this earth who think exactly like that. They are not open to changing their beliefs. They are not open to changing their opinions. They are not open to learning new things. They pretty much have decided that what they know is all that they need to know when it comes to maybe certain topics, when it comes to all life, when it comes to certain people, when it comes to certain types of people. Check yourself. If you do not remain a student, then you're becoming dumber and dumber every single day. How is this? You're becoming dumber because new information is coming about every single day. Every single day, I'm giving you a new episode of the show, and I'm not repeating any topics. So every day that's new information that I'm putting out there. And there's somebody else out there who's doing the same thing on YouTube, or maybe on their blog, or maybe in their email list, or maybe they're doing it once a week. Maybe there's a group of people doing it together every single day. There's a teacher out there giving a new lecture every single day at some college or university, probably thousands of them. There's new information being put into the atmosphere every single day. So if you are trying to hold on to your static knowledge, whatever you know right now, no matter how much it is, and you're not open to learning anything new, that means more information is coming into the atmosphere, but you are staying locked and closed off to any of it. Eventually, all that new information is going to be so much that what you have is not as worth as much as it used to be. Not as much as it used to be worth. So now knowledge is passing you by. Time is passing you by. You become less and less valuable because you don't have the knowledge that matters. The knowledge that matters changes from day to day, situation to situation. There used to be the knowledge that mattered was how to get a book publishing deal. That matters still some, but now is a whole other piece of knowledge that matters, which is how to self-publish your own book. That's new knowledge. Now imagine if you knew how to get a book publishing deal, but you never learned how to self-publish your own book. You would be at a disadvantage right now because you're giving yourself fewer options. So if you can't get that book publishing deal because the industry has changed, now what are you going to do? You can't self-publish because you don't know how. You haven't been open to the information. It used to be a time where if you knew how to work a camcorder, some of you don't even know what a camcorder is. It used to hold these things called VHS tapes, which is how we made videos back in the 80s and the 90s. If you knew how to work a camcorder, you could be a video person and you can make good money as a videographer. These days, the knowledge is, all right, can you work the camera on your phone and shoot with that? But if you never got the new knowledge, you weren't open to the new knowledge, you figured working a camcorder was all you would ever need to know, well, you probably got left behind by the new knowledge. So you got to keep your mind open and stay a student. Always be open to learning new things, no matter how much you think you already know. If you know a whole lot of things already and you learn new things, all it's going to do is allow you to combine the old ideas or the old information with the new information, and that'll create more information. That's the mastermind of information. A mastermind, as Napoleon Hill described in his book, Think and Grow Rich, is when two or more minds combine and create another mind. So a mastermind between two people creates a third mind that is called the mastermind that is more than the sum of its parts. This is 1 + 1 = 3 is the basic idea of what a mastermind is. So when you have your information, your knowledge that you already know, your experiences, and you combine it with new information, new knowledge, and new experiences, that creates a third piece of knowledge and experience that now you can leverage, give to your audience, you can sell to a customer, whatever it is you want to do with it, that will help everybody moving forward, because no one has your specific combination of experiences. So you're going to have something that's proprietary, but you got to be open-minded enough to take in new stuff so you can create the new thing, whatever the new thing is going to be. So remain a student at all times. No one is too smart to learn. And you never know where a good idea can come from. Doesn't mean you should listen to everything, but you never know where a good idea can come from. Every once in a while, a blind squirrel can still find a nut. Point number 2. Today's topic is correction is not criticism. Unless you believe yourself to be perfect, which I hope you don't, correction is what you want. You want to be corrected, again, by the right people who are enrolled and qualified to do so. When you follow what I told you here, back in episode 283, I did an episode called Choose Your Gurus and Eliminate the Rest. In other words, you don't have to listen to every single podcast or watch every single YouTube video or read every book that's ever come out, because there are too many of them. They're coming out faster than you can consume them. You need to figure out who you're going to learn from and limit yourself to consuming everything those people have put out so you can go deep instead of wide. Once you do that and you've chosen your teachers, that means you should be happy when those people, whoever they are, when they offer you corrections. If you play sports and you join a sports team with a coach, you probably know that the coach is going to criticize you, right? You know the coach is going to correct you, right? You know the coach is not going to come to you every day and tell you how great you are, right? You probably already understand that. So once you've chosen who your experts are going to be, the people who you want to offer you corrections, you should be happy when they actually do it. You decided on them yourself after all. I mean, in life, you can choose your own experts. You're listening to me right now. You chose. You didn't have to. I mean, I'm not a school teacher, so you were not forced into my classroom, or you were not forced to read any of my books, like a textbook that you get at school. You're not forced to get anything that I'm sharing. So if you're listening to something that I'm saying and maybe it offends you a little bit, maybe it hits a nerve, maybe I say something that I say I know someone out there this applies to, and I'm talking specifically about you, you should be happy that I said that. Because that means, first of all, I'm in tune with where you're at and I understand the challenges that you're going through, which means you should keep listening and listen even more closely. You should probably listen more than once. And it also means that whatever I'm pointing out, you could probably do something about it. Since I know that that's an issue, you know that it's an issue. Now you have the opportunity to do something about it because I brought it to your consciousness. Maybe you were already conscious of it, but now I brought it up. You already have it brought up in your mind. So now what you going to do? You going to do something about it, or you just going to leave it as it is? If you chose to play for a coach, certain coach, you know that correction is part of the coaching package. I mean, any of you ever had a coach who never offered you correction? Who never criticized anything that you did? Would that be news to you if a coach criticized you? Choosing a coach, if you happen to play sports, or any of you who's ever hired a coach, coaching, when you choose a coach rather, you are making a tacit admission that you have areas which could be improved. You have areas for improvement. That's the only reason you have a coach. All right? If I thought I knew everything I need to know about basketball, I guess I wouldn't need to join the team or have a coach or a trainer because I know everything. But I need a coach or a trainer for? What are they going to teach me? But once you do join it, you understand that there's some things that you need to be taught. There's some things that you need to learn, and understand that every coach has their own way of doing things, right? If you play a sport, every coach has their own style, their own system. Therefore, even though you may know everything about the game itself, you don't know anything about their system or their style. So they may be correcting you on how to do it their way, on how to do it in their system, which you may or may not agree with. But again, you're on their team. They're not on your team. You're on their team. So even though they may be correcting you on something that you think is not useful, or you don't need to know, or you think it doesn't work, remember whose organization you are a part of. Now, if you want to call things your way, then you can start your own organization. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. But understand that when you choose a coach, you are admitting that there are things that you can learn, there are areas in which you can be improved, and you are admitting that you are okay with being coached. That's the point. And even coaches have coaches too, by the way. Point number 3. Today's topic: correction is not criticism. Understand, for those of you who haven't developed the maturity of understanding this yet, we got to make this a point. You are not being hated on or singled out if you find that a coach is maybe getting on you more than they're getting on anybody else. So maybe if you have on a sports team is the easiest example, maybe at a job even. If you think the boss or the supervisor has your best intentions in mind, they're actually trying to help you get to where you want to get to. If you think that they are, no matter how much they're getting on you or calling you out or critiquing your work, doesn't mean that they're hating on you. Okay, and it also does not mean that they're singling you out in a negative way. Maybe they're singling you out specifically because there's something that you did wrong that you need to know about. Maybe they're singling you out because of that, not because they want you to fail, not because they want you to fall apart. Listen, if someone wants you to fail, they're probably not going to put too much time into calling out your mistakes, because why would they do that? I mean, think about it. Let's think about this in a logical way. If you were, let's say I'm running an organization as a boss, a supervisor, or a coach, and there's somebody in that group, it happens to be you, and I want you to fail. I want you to come up short, and I want you to fail and fall flat on your face and not succeed. All right, you know one thing that I'm not going to do? I'm not going to point out any of your mistakes. I'm just let you keep making them. Right? If I want you to fail, why would I point out your mistakes? I'm gonna make you think that what you did is okay. So you keep doing it, so you keep messing up and you fail. So if you have a coach or a boss or a parent or whoever who's always pointing out your mistakes, think about it. Think about it in a rational, reasonable way, that the only reason they're pointing it out is because they want you to do something about it. If they wanted you to fail, they would just say nothing and let you keep messing up. Eventually, you would just run yourself into the ground. Doesn't that just make sense? But this is hard. I understand. I completely understand. Because for a young person, let's say you're up to the age of 25, maybe, it may be hard for you to understand this, because up to that age for even myself, especially in college, it was hard for me to understand that coming from a coach, because there was no one like me with a podcast called Work on Your Game who's explaining this to you. So you have an advantage that I didn't have. You have someone, a third party outside of the coach-player relationship or boss-employee relationship, who can explain this to you that I didn't have. So you got it, okay? You got a leg up on where I was at. It's often hard for a young person to understand that they're not hating on you. They're actually trying to help you. That's why they keep pointing things out, as I just explained. The way I see it, the coach who is constantly correcting you or the supervisor who's constantly calling you out or singling you out, whatever way you want to label it, you call it whatever you want. All right. The reason why they're doing that, again, if you think about it reasonably, they are making a bet that by calling you out, you will actually make some damn adjustments to what you're doing. That's the reason why they're pointing it out. I don't think they're pointing it out just to point it out. I mean, if you think about it yourself, all right, think about just you. If you had a friend or a coworker or a teammate or a neighbor or a family member or somebody who you knew they were making some mistakes in the execution of what they were doing. You saw that they were making mistakes and you knew how to fix the mistake. If you knew if you told them what the mistake was and how to fix it, that it would be better if they followed you. All right, you know that. And you told them about it. Why would you do that? Why would you tell them about the mistake that they're making and how to fix it? This is not a rhetorical question. I want you to answer the question. I can't hear you, but I want you to answer the question. Why would you point out to your friend or your cousin or your teammate or your classmate the mistake that they made and how to fix it? Why do you do that? It's because you, consciously or unconsciously, want to help them succeed. You want to help them do better. So that's the same thing that a coach is doing for you. If they're calling you out on your mistakes, singling you out, maybe saying your name more than they're saying anybody else's name, that's because they are betting unconsciously that by calling you out, you will do something different. Because the coach who doesn't think you will change, the boss who doesn't think you will improve no matter what they say, they think talking to you is just a waste of time. You know what they're going to do? They're going to stop talking to you. They're going to stop offering you corrections. They will stop criticizing you. They will stop, quote unquote, hating on you. They'll stop saying your name. You will start to believe that maybe they forgot you were on the team. All right. They'll stop talking about you at all. They will pay you no attention whatsoever. Why? Because they decided that no matter what they say to you, nothing's going to change anyway. So they might as well just let you be who you are. All right. Is that what you want? I don't think that's really what you want. So this is where you need to be emotionally mature enough to understand the logic and reason that I just laid out for you over the last 20 minutes. Because I just laid it out for you perfectly. So if you don't get this, it's because you weren't paying attention. So you need to go back and listen to the whole thing all over again. Think about it again for yourself. If you offer someone feedback on how they could be better and you know that you know what you're talking about and they don't apply it, stop talking to them. They obviously don't want to hear it, or they don't want to get better, or they just don't want to hear it from you. One of the three. But ain't nothing else you can do. You offered it to them. You led the horse to the water. If they don't want to drink, then they just don't want to drink. It ain't your business anymore. You did what you could do. Now it's done. If I offer somebody feedback on how they can get better at something and they don't follow my feedback, I will never offer that person feedback ever again. Not because I'm mad at them, because I'm like, okay, they just didn't want to hear it, or they didn't want to hear it from me, or they're not ready to hear it. Whatever it happens to be, I did what I could do. All I did was plant the seed, or if they didn't water the seed, then the tree ain't going to grow. All right, ain't my business. I know my tree is going to grow. Why is this? Because we're all human. Nobody wants to be ignored. All right, nobody wants to feel like they're talking to somebody, offering them correction, offering them feedback, but the person's not doing anything with the feedback. Your coaches and your bosses, they're human just like you. So if they're giving you correction and feedback over and over and over again, even stuff that you might not quite want to hear, maybe you don't want to hear it the way that they're giving it to you. That's another thing. If they're continuously doing it and they always saying your name, they're always talking about you, they are guessing, they are betting that because they're saying something to you that you're going to listen and then you're going to do something with it. Because who wants to spend a whole bunch of their energy and time talking to a person who's not listening? Nobody. I don't want to talk to somebody who's not going to listen. If you're not listening to me, then I'm not going to keep talking to you. Because what do I get? I don't get anything from a person who's not listening. Now, if you're going to listen and do what I'm telling you to do, then we'll see the results and then you'll be happy. I'll be happy because I know I gave you the right information and it helped you get better. You'll be happy because you got better and you achieved the result. But if you're not going to listen, no matter what I say, nothing's going to change. So I wasted my time talking to you and you wasted your time pretending to be listening to me. That's a lose-lose situation. Who wants to be involved in that? Not me. Let's recap today's topic, which is correction is not criticism. I heard again a football team coach saying this, that a lot of players not used to having anybody give them corrections, giving them any constructive feedback. They take it as criticism, then they close up because they're not used to anyone talking to them in that way. But what you need to understand, which I explain in these points here today, is that when someone's offering you correction, they're actually trying to help you get better if you can be mature enough and reasonable enough to understand it, which I've explained as we recap our points. Number one, if you're not the one teaching the class, if you're not the one in the front of the room, then you can be corrected. That means there's something that you don't know. There's something that you haven't experienced. Doesn't necessarily mean that you can't do it, but it means that you are a lifelong student. You will always be a student. You are never too smart to learn, and you never know where a good idea can come from, some good feedback can come from. Be humble enough to understand that you can always get better no matter how good you are already. Point number two, unless you want to believe yourself to be perfect, which I doubt you do, correction is what you want. All right? You want people who are going to correct you on what you're doing so that can help you get better. You should be happy when somebody's offering you a correction, especially if it's someone that you chose to be corrected by. Choosing a coach, for example, you play a sport, that's your tacit admission that you have areas that can be improved. Otherwise, you would be the coach. And even coaches have coaches. Point number three is not hating on you or you being singled out when you find a coach is calling your name out often. This is often hard for young people to understand, but luckily you got somebody like Dre Baldwin giving you the logic and reason behind this in a real way so you can understand where it's coming from, because maybe your coach doesn't have time to explain this to you, but I'm giving it to you. The way that I see it, the coach who is always calling out one individual player, there's a reason for that, because they think that one person actually is going to listen. All right, they don't call out the player who doesn't listen. Coaches do not waste their energy yelling at a player who is not listening or a player who doesn't do what the coach says, because the coach understands, all right, this person is not listening to anything I'm saying. It's like talking to a brick wall. I'm basically being ignored. No human being is going to keep talking to somebody who's ignoring them. The only people we keep talking to are the people who are listening. Okay, this show right here, I don't make this for the people who aren't listening to the show. I make it for people who are listening. If nobody was listening, then I wouldn't keep doing it. You understand? Your coach is not going to keep saying your name if they don't think you're going to do anything with what they say. Now, if you start showing that you're not going to do anything, eventually you'll notice they say your name less and less and less, which you may think is a victory, but is actually a loss, because now you have no one correcting you. And since you're not perfect and then you don't have anybody correcting you, problem. Now, you might end up going over the edge of the waterfall. You won't realize it till you're about 10 feet away and you can't swim that well. So who talks to somebody that's not listening? Nobody. So understand that when someone's correcting you, they're not trying to bring you down or hate on you or any of the other negative bullshit that you may come up with in your own mind. They're actually trying to help you, and they believe that you're someone who is smart enough to listen to it. So hopefully you are that person. You listen to me, you can listen to them. Work on your game. Dre all day.